We are going to bring up the end of our TLI training with someone very, very special, Don Bittick. Don has been in Toastmasters for 20 years, and he's been blessed to have had the opportunity to talk about club quality with members all around the world. Normally, okay, Don is not a big fan of using the chat feature when presenters are speaking, but today, Don will be encouraging everybody to do so. Please help me welcome distinguished Toastmaster, past district governor, past region advisor, and past international director, Don Bittick.
Thank you, Kristen. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for that introduction. I don't think I could have written a better one. I appreciate that. Bert, also, oh my goodness, thank you for that music. Just fantastic music. You really got me going. I'm awake now, so thank you so much for that. First, I just want to say it is such an honor to look at all the faces on the screen and look at our amazing members and leaders in this district. I am so humbled right now. So thank you so much for attending this training. I will say that I have been to many, many TLIs. And I have learned one thing that's most important, I believe. As the last speaker, the last thing you want to do is go over your time. So I will do my best to stay on time, if not end early. So please bear with me. Today I want to share an interesting childhood story with you to kick things off. And then I'll share a very important quote from Dr. Smedley when it comes to club quality. And then we will really start to use that chat box because I'm going to ask you some questions related to club quality. Dean, thank you so much for the segue. A lot of the things that you talked about, we will expand on during this part of the TLI. So thank you so much for doing that for me and for everybody else. Let's begin with that childhood story. It's a story of the three little pigs. And I'm guessing that most of you have heard this story before. There were three little pigs that were being harassed, obviously, by a big bad wolf. And the pigs went off on their own because they could not agree on how to escape the wolf. Well, they built houses. And as the story goes, the first little pig built a house out of straw. No problem for the big bad wolf. The big bad wolf came and blew it right down. That pig ran into the house of another pig who built it out of wood. The big bad wolf followed that pig to the next house, blew it down. Now the two pigs were wondering, maybe we should have listened to our third pig and helped him build his house out of brick. So they ran to the brick house and the pig let him in. Big bad wolf came, could not blow it down. And the pigs lived happily ever after. Now I know I abbreviated that story just a little bit, but you're probably wondering, what does that have to do with Toastmasters? Well, I want to explain why I'm using this analogy because to me, the first house that wolf blew down out of straw represents those clubs that are struggling. And Dean referred to them as clubs needing coaches. Through no fault of their own sometimes, opportunities could be better at other times. But the clubs made out of straw, if you will, the clubs that may be missing the mark just a little bit with club quality are the clubs that tend to struggle and unfortunately fold over time. The second house made out of wood. I like to refer to those clubs in Toastmasters as those clubs 13 to 19 members. They're probably doing okay, a little stronger than the clubs that are made out of straw. But still, the wolf was able to blow it down. So a lot of times those clubs, if they don't fail, they reach the point where their membership drops and now they're in a club made out of straw. The third house, This is where my wish to you is that all of our clubs could be with the strongest of all foundations. And it begins with club quality. And I'll share a quote from Dr. Smedley on this topic. Some of you have heard this before from me, but it's worth repeating. Dr. Smedley said that members join Toastmasters for different reasons. A lot of them have their own personal goals. They may want to become a champion at public speaking. They may want to join their school board, whatever the reason. We are there as members of a club to help them achieve their goals. And Dr. Smedley said, if they leave after that, that's okay. We help them meet their personal goals. However, Dr. Smedley said, what we have to do as leaders, especially as club officers, what we have to do is make it as hard as possible for those members to want to leave. We have to continue giving them the best experience in our clubs. So with that thought in mind, as Kristen said, I'm not always a big fan of chat, but I hope you will take me up on this opportunity to share in the chat box what is your short definition of club quality. So go ahead and start using chat. I would love to look at your answers. And I want to tell you why I'm asking this. I asked a half a dozen of my very dear friends around the world what club quality meant to them. And guess what? I asked 6 people. I got 13 different answers. So I'm really looking forward to seeing your answers in the chat box. And I may comment on 1 or 2 of them. Okay, I have seen a lot of fantastic answers, and guess what? They're all right. A lot of them are different, but they are all correct. There are a lot of things that go into club quality, but I want to quantify it 1 step further. And I love your answers. The only thing that I saw that was missing, and this is just my personal opinion, is a reference to the club mission. Because if we are meeting what's built into the club mission, we are hopefully providing club quality. And a lot of the things that I read are things that would go into club quality. So for example, club mission, we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. That is the goal of every club. Now, how do we go about providing those supportive and empowerment opportunities to our members? And a lot of them have to do with what I read in the chat box. So thank you for those answers. I've got another question that I'm hoping you'll use the chat box again. And after this, you can still use the chat box, but I will not ask you to anymore. All I ask is that you don't say anything terrible about me. So here's the next question. Why is club quality important? Okay, I am getting the gist of everybody's entries, and oh my gosh, thank you for this. I have to go back and look at this chat box, Kristen, so afterward, I would love to see everybody's answers. The one thing I didn't see, and I just may have missed it, Looked like everybody was focusing on the members, but guess who else is influenced by club quality? Our guests. Club quality is not just important for our members, it is also very important for our guests. And I'll give you a quick example. During this time of lockdowns, if you will, I visited a lot of clubs, and any club that did not recognize me as a guest, not just me because of my name or anything, but they just didn't recognize me as a guest, I didn't go back again, even though it was very convenient for me to go back and participate in that club's meetings. So it's the little things that may set people off. But here's the thing. If we are not providing our guests with the same opportunities and levels of experience as our members, they will probably walk away with a bad taste in their mouth, not just for that club, but for all clubs. They may think that maybe that's the standard, and if that's the standard, they don't want to be a part of it in any situation. So we're not only sometimes hurting our own clubs, we're hurting other clubs as well from attracting those members too. So club quality is important for our members and for our guests. Now, I want to talk about this opportunity that we have because this is such a passionate topic of mine. And I have to admit, Kristen, this is the perfect time of year that I love to speak about this because guess what happens in a few days? The new Toastmasters year, July 1st, it's a time of reassessing our clubs. And there's excellent tools out there. There's a club quality checklist that I have fallen in love with. This is a good time, I think, for our clubs to pass that on to our members and have them rate the club as far as club quality is concerned. Dean talked about moments of truth. Excellent opportunity to talk about moments of truth. And here's my favorite. There is a member interest survey out there. This is a perfect opportunity to ask all members of every club to fill it out. Now, I know, and I have been guilty of this many times in the past when I was a club president or a club officer. We focused on members' goals who could get us points for the year. And we encouraged those members throughout the year to keep working because we wanted to be distinguished. Well, we're leaving out a great number of people in our clubs if we do it that way. And again, I was guilty of that myself. But now I love it when I hear of clubs asking every member to fill out that member interest survey and what their goals are. And we really need to help them reach their goals. And here's why. This is the part, Kristen, that I talked about that I may shock some people here. And for those of you who are focused right now on becoming distinguished, select distinguished, presidents distinguished, more power to you. But I'm here today to tell you that that should not be your goal as a club. Now you're probably wondering, okay, how did this guy serve in leadership by saying something like that? Being distinguished is a result of achieving goals. We should be looking at the goals of our members and the goals of our clubs. And a phrase that I like to use, if we are helping every member achieve their goals and every club then achieving their goals, everything else, in my humble opinion, should fall into place. And distinguished should be the result, probably 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10. So 10 out of 10 or being distinguished is a fine measurement to have. And that's a measurement that World Headquarters is very interested in. But I think we lose sight on how to get there. And that's why I really encourage everybody to work with your members and find out what their goals are. And let's work toward that end together. Here's the other thing I'd like to share with today. Many clubs fill out a club success plan. And again, here's where I was guilty of this too when I was a club officer. I would look at last year's plan and I would pretty much write the next year's plan based off of that one and probably not change very much maybe in that plan. But I would encourage everybody to take that plan seriously and really work in developing that plan, get everybody's input in the club in that plan. Because if you have buy-in from your members and not just your officers, that has potential of being an awesome club. And I think that helps develop some passion from the members that they're being included in the club's plan for the future. Here's where I think some clubs lose track of success when it comes to the club success plan. They begrudgingly sometimes or enthusiastically fill out their club success plan, stick it on a shelf, 11 months later, pull it off that shelf and look at it and they see, okay, what did we achieve this year? Well, especially last year, if we'd have done that, most clubs would have failed, and they did fail because things happened throughout the year that would change the goals and objectives of that club, of each club. So for me, the club success plan, it's a living document. Hopefully your clubs are having officer meetings. Those are excellent times to review the club success plan together and see where you stand at any given moment. Waiting 11 months, pretty risky for a club, especially if you're trying to help all your members achieve their goals as well. So I promised that I would not take up too much of your time today, but I do have one more question that I hope you will use the chat box as well. Please let me know how many of you in your clubs are using the club success plan the way I described it. And it's not meant to put anyone on the spot. If you have not used it in that way, let me know if you're planning to use it in that way. I'm very interested if you've changed your mind or if you're actively working that club success plan. I'd love to see the numbers on that to see how our district is doing. Oh my gosh, I am so honored at those responses. Um, Several of you have said that you are using that club success plan as a living document, and I love it. Absolutely love it. And some of you have said, well, you know, maybe we need to start thinking about this and start using that as well. I truly believe that member engagement, as some people said earlier, as far as why it's important and what is club quality, member engagement in club decisions is very important as well. So I hope that you have learned a little bit about my thoughts and other people's thoughts on club quality. It's not something that can be changed overnight. And I'll give you another example. And there are some members of the club that I'm going to speak about that are on this call, and I will not call them out. I will not mention the club by name, but I have heard many clubs that this has happened to around the world. I was approached by someone in a club when I was in the district trio, and they told me, a couple people told me that they were a little disappointed in their club, but they didn't know they were disappointed until they visited other clubs and saw how other clubs did things. Well, they realized that they were not doing those things in their club. And they said, Don, how do we change the culture in our club? And I said, well, tell me about the club. And they said, well, we have about 2 or 3 members in this club that pretty much control everything. And as Dean mentioned earlier, they kept doing the same thing over and over and expected different results. But it wasn't the way of Toastmasters, if you will. They weren't giving program speeches. Their evaluations at times were a little harsh. And they wanted to make this club successful. Rather than just pack their bags and go to another club, they wanted to change that club. And I said, okay. I said, you have a club election coming up. I said, have you yourselves and other like-minded members run for office and see if you can't change the culture of the club by being in leadership in that club. And guess what happened? They did that. They did that at the risk of losing a couple of their members. They did that, and they changed the culture. They're following the program, and they have had incredible success ever since that day. And I believe, pretty positive, that they have become President's Distinguished every year since then. 10 out of 10, every year since then. The program, the club quality concept has so incredible benefits that we could spend days and days talking about them. But I just wanted to use that as an example. Sometimes you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. And that's what they did. And some of our clubs today, not just in our district, but around the world, are finding themselves in that position as well right now. They may need to take a step back to make 2 steps forward. But in the long run, the ultimate goal about club quality, in my opinion, is to have a sustainable club. You have quality growth, you have quality retention, not just for 1 year, not just every other year, but for every year going forward. And I think that that's probably the cause of so many clubs being lost. They're not creating that sustainability. One last story. There is a district that I worked with that they were so proud of themselves. They were chartering 30 new clubs every year. And I said, oh my goodness, that is so amazing. I said, but how many are you losing every year? And this is where my smile turned into a frown. They said, well, times are tough. We lost about 25, 30 clubs. And I thought, oh, so you broke even. I said, so you broke even. I mean, that's great. You started 30 clubs, but maybe think about chartering stronger clubs, more sustainable clubs, really work on that club quality. And hopefully you won't be losing those 25, 30 clubs every year as well. And imagine how large your district would be if you could do that. Now, I'm not saying every club has the same opportunity to succeed. There are limitations. I know of some clubs, but that's where clubs can reach out to other successful clubs and ask for help. Dean talked about a club coach. We're working on a program to have people help with clubs between 13 and 19, and even 20 and above. Just because you have 20 or above, sometimes that doesn't mean it's a quality club. It just means you have a lot of members sometimes. And there's always room for improvement. So my challenge to everybody on this call, rebuild or build your club with that third pig in mind. Make that foundation as strong as you can, build it out of bricks, and make it sustainable and get every member involved. Every member likes to share their opinions. I mean, we're Toastmasters, right? How many people pass up an opportunity to comment on something or ask a question or answer a question, right? You give somebody a minute to respond and they take 10. I mean, we love to talk, get those members in there, get them enthusiastic about doing that as well. And I just wish the best for each and every club in achieving this. And as always, I am available to discuss this further with anybody on this call. Look at the Toastmasters website, incredible resources out there. I just mentioned a couple of them. I think Dean mentioned 1 or 2 as well. And again, thank you so much for your commitment and your passion to leading this district and working for each and every one of our members. And I wish you a strong finish this year and an even better next year. And I'll turn control of this back over to Kristen. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Don, for, I say, bringing up the rear, but